Okay, Dan, you've had a pretty good journey from biology to sandwich guru, not even self-professed. What do you think those experiences? How do they tie together?
Oh, well, going back, I mean, I did have a little background on that. My family's had delis since 1952.
Wow.
So growing up, I worked at my dad's stores and the sandwich shops and delis. I memean, they were full-fledged delis. They were
Cool.
not sandwich shops. I swore that I was never going to get into the food industry.
Nice.
After so I went to college, studied biology. I was going to become a doctor. Somewhere along the line, I realized that blood was not my thing. Don't like looking at open wounds or anything. So I had a minor in history. Figured it was too late to switch, so I just got my biology degree, went on for 4 different master's programs, got bored in each one. Somewhere along the line, we threw a party one night, and one of my friends told me that the food was awful. It wasn't just bad; it was
Wow.
awful. So he suggested I take a cooking class, and I did, and I really enjoyed it. And after that, I took another one. Then I went to culinary school, and my biology degree actually lends itself to cooking.
In what respect?
The fact that knowing when temperature of meat changes and how it affects the product, and it was just the combination of knowing organic product and how it interacts with different elements. Baking, on the other hand, is chemistry. I sucked at chemistry. I mean, it's like, and you have anything I bake, you'll understand. I just don't have the patience for it. But biology you can play around with. So, yeah, it's helped me quite a bit.
What was the biggest challenge when you transitioned from the kosher to the Weinbergers as it is now?
Well, we were never kosher. Kosher is a tough thing. I mean, it's like when we started out, we were on the end of Main Street in Grapevine back in 2002. There was nothing really south of me except my building. And
the same spot?
Yeah. We've been in the same spot for 22 years.
Great.
Again, we opened up, we had knishes and blintzes and lox and cream cheese and things you would find in a traditional kosher style deli.
Gotcha.
And Grapevine really was not that hot on matzo ball soup and stuff like that. So, but we did sell sandwiches and everybody loved the sandwiches. So I'm running with my strong suit. I'm going with more and more sandwiches as we go along.
Cool. So speaking about sandwiches, I did read somewhere you have a rich history in your family with respect to deli. How did that influence everything you're doing today?
Obviously, going way back, I went to a parochial grade school, and everybody had peanut butter and jelly sandwiches, bologna sandwiches. My dad would send me with a corned beef sandwich every day.
Nice.
A big, thick corned beef sandwich.
Gosh.
And I would be trading it to my friends because it was like, oh, God, not another corned beef. Give me that bologna. I'll take it anytime.
Wow.
But my journey growing up, I mean, my dad not only had these sandwich shops, but he also had a meat route in Chicago on the south side. And back in the day, we would go to all these different neighborhoods, whether it was a German, Irish, Mexican, whatever, Polish.
Mm-hmm.
And I was at that age where flavor profiles, where your brain develops flavor profiles. And so I got an opportunity at that early age to experiment with these different foods. So combinations are locked in my head. I know, okay, this is the Italian food, and this is what goes with the Italians. This goes with the Polish. Do you cross Polish with Italian? That's another story we can get into as far as ethnic foods and how I believe ethnic foods have changed in America. There's a lot. For what I've done over the past several years, trying to take my sandwiches and turn traditional sandwiches into the 21st century and to still maintain their integrity from what they once were.
You've earned a few titles. Some of them are wacky over the years. Sultan of Sandwiches, Sandwich Yoda, Chef Ramburger, and I think you just said what?
The algorithm of sandwiches.
Algorithm of sandwiches. So how do you think those reflect your approach to just business in general?
What I do is I'm very intense with what I do. When I get a sandwich, and I'm very fortunate. I've got a pretty broad palate, so a lot of people when they go into the food industry, they're like, "This is the best thing ever." Say that, for example, somebody's going to put out Reaper powdered chicken wings, right?
Wow.
But they love spice. Well, you don't like spice. So you're not going to like his wings.
Right.
And so somebody's only going to come in order that one sandwich or that one product, and not very often. Me, I'm looking for that in-between area, which is going to get that guy for the heat and the guy with the non-heat as well.
Right. Cool. So I've also read that I think you've said construction is the key to making a really good sandwich. What's the key to making a really great sandwich?
Can I ask you a question?
Yeah.
When you make a sandwich at home, where do you put your mayonnaise or your mustard?
Oh, that is a really good question. I tell you what, personally, I like to put it right in the middle because I don't like it to get mushy on the bread.
You are in the minority because everybody puts mayonnaise, mustard, whatever they're on the bread. And I've never been able to understand that because that's seasoning the bread, not the filling. But I mean, you put it on the filling. That's my number one rule with all my employees. When we make sandwiches, I'm like mayonnaise, mustard, whatever it is. I mean, the Italian dressing, it's going on the filling. It's not going on the outside. Building the sandwich, the lettuce goes in a particular area. Pickles, onions, avocados, tomatoes. There's a certain way that you arrange these on the sandwich because, just to give you an example, with pickles and onions, a lot of times you'll see raw red onion on a sandwich, and they cut them really thick. But if you cut them thin and then you put the pickles on top, the vinegar, it's a very slight vinegar, but it affects the red onion itself, kind of like mellows it out. And so you always put onions, pickles, avocado, tomato. If you have those four elements on a sandwich, that's the religious structure they go on for me. I mean, it's like literally I have thousands of sandwiches, but I kind of like rearrange them to fit my style.
Sure.
And which makes our sandwiches unique.
Very cool. So where does the term weinbergerizing come from?
I came up with that because that would be weinbergerizing. That'd be a Reuben sandwich. That's our most popular sandwich, the Weinberger Reuben.
Gotcha.
A Reuben is basically corned beef, sauerkraut, Swiss cheese, Russian dressing, or Thousand Island dressing on rye. End of story. Everybody thinks that the sandwich came from New York. It has to be on rye bread. Well, it was created in Lincoln, Nebraska. It was originally on black bread. So we use a marble. We
I don't even know what black bread is.
Black bread is very old rye bread. It's Russian rye. It's
Nice.
it's like a pumpernickel. So, but the way that the sandwich is built, if you look at a lot of Reubens that you see, it's bread, meat, sauerkraut, dressing, and then cheese on top.
Mm-hmm.
Ours is bread, cheese, sauerkraut, meat, dressing, cheese, bread. And the reason for it is you separate the sweet from that sour, and then you've got savory in the middle. So when you bite into it, you have distinct flavors.
Right.
But if you put them the other way around, it muddles the flavors because you've got that sauerkraut dripping onto the corned beef. You've got the sweet of the Russian dressing going into the sauerkraut, and then that Swiss cheese on top of it. So, but I mean, Weinbergerizing would be creating it in my style as far as the way it's constructed.
Cool. Okay, so let's talk about Grapevine. What led you to Grapevine, and what aspects of the community do you absolutely love, and how does that tie into Weinbergers?
When I first went looking for a location, we were actually 3 days within signing a contract in South Lake.
Wow.
Town Square. Brian Stebbins is the one I credited with giving me the name Weinbergers because originally the name of the shop was going to be the Chicago Deli Sandwich Company. And so, but he said, with a name like Weinbergers, he goes, that's a natural. And I'm like, okay.
Nice.
So I happened to be, the spot that I wanted was not actually where I'm at, but kitty corner to me. The old gas station that's on College in Maine is where I wanted to go. But it was occupied at the time. And I thought, well, I'm just going to drive by to see if maybe they had vacated the space. I went by. This building was up, corner location. I called the realtor at the time. This is Gary Hazelwood's building where we're at now. And the realtor came out, and the contract was 7 pages long. South Lakes was 42.
Holy cow.
And I signed on the spot because I could actually read the contract. I didn't have to have a lawyer interpret it. And so, funny story is I'm leaving. I'm going down Main Street, and it was right before Grape Fest, and they had the banners up for the event. And there are bunches of grapes, the city logo on it, right? My family crest is bunches of grapes.
Oh, wow.
Weinberger actually means vineyard.
Cool.
And here I am in Grapevine, and I'm literally built on what was an old vineyard.
Wow.
So kismet.
That's cool. Okay, so speaking about Grapevine in general, you're part of the historic, I guess, foundation or the Historic Society. Is that right?
Yeah, HDGA, the Historic Downtown Grapevine Association.
So how does being part of that help shape the growth of Grapevine?
The merchants themselves, I mean, especially Main Street, we try to maintain our integrity as far as who we are as an identity to be unique. There is nothing, everybody tries to make these town squares to emulate what we actually are organically. There is nothing, I can't imagine anywhere else where you can go and find tile and flooring, optometrist, restaurants, oil stores, clothing stores, the way that we have. I mean, the different dining or the dessert options that we have, the wineries. I mean, it's an amazing compilation of businesses.
Right. You describe Grapevine as your hometown. What does Grapevine mean to you personally and professionally?
Personally, it's very reflective of where I grew up. Same vibe as far as where I grew up in Chicago.
Cool.
Small town. We had our downtown district that we would go to. We had the drugstore, Horny's, which was the little trinket shop or whatever. You know, it was like everybody went. It was the miniature Walmart back then. Five and dime.
Right.
Five and dime. And then we had, Baskin Robbins. We had the little tavern. We had the barber shop. We had it all. We got the same thing here in Grapevine. And the community here of volunteers, the people that there's two sets of people. There's the Grapevinians and those that have migrated here. Okay.
Right.
And when I first opened, I was accepted by a lot of the Grapevinians, and they came in and they told me stories of this was, at one time this was this building, and I paid attention. I listened to them, and because that's my audience, so I'm going to sell to these people, and having the similar type of experience growing up, and then to run into that here again. I mean, these are just great people. I just love everybody that comes into my shop.
That's cool. Well, speaking about that, you've been written up a lot and highlighted in lots of different platforms. And how do you still maintain the cool roots of the deli with all that buzz?
I like the buzz. I mean, to say it was written up, that's like, funny story. I have said that I've been in every paper you possibly imagine in Texas magazine. I've been on ABC, NBC, CBS, Fox. I've been on the Race Channel. I've been on every radio station. The one thing that I had never achieved was D Magazine.
Wow.
And a couple of months ago, there was an article that came out in their suburban issue, and it mentioned Weinberger's Deli.
Wow.
And, I always joked about the fact that I would retire once I made it to D Magazine. And so I emailed the publisher, the editor, and I told him the story and how grateful I was to finally be mentioned in D Magazine. And he sent me back a letter. He said, "Congratulations for bagging the white whale."
Oh my God.
So this past couple of months ago, they had their best of issue, and we actually got Best Deli in Texas through D Magazine.
Wow.
So yeah, I can officially retire. Very
cool. Very cool. Well, so I also read somewhere where you had mentioned about writing a book about sandwiches. What do you want your legacy to be?
The fact that, I would like to have some impact on the way people make sandwiches. Truthfully, I mean, it's like anybody who in their home, everybody eats a sandwich. I always think the sandwiches are the stepchild of the culinary world. You see all these shows, and they're always so intense about the different foods they have. But little things, even hamburgers. Hamburgers are 1,000 times represented better than a sandwich.
Sure.
Okay. People like to make submarine sandwiches at home, but or whatever they make, they have to go out and buy so much of the product, and then half of it gets thrown away because they're only making one sandwich.
Sure.
So I would like to be able to, come up with well, I actually am working on a book with different types of sandwiches in it, but I keep going back and forth on it. It's like, is this too complicated? Is this easy enough for somebody to understand? And I think I've come up with a pretty good formula for the sandwiches. And so that would be my legacy, would be a book showing people how to change the way they make sandwiches. When I went to culinary school, I would have arguments with the chefs because the way they would make a sandwich is inverse to what a deli does. Delis are taught a different way. Deli people make sandwiches different, and very few chefs understand that. Tom Colicchio is one of the few chefs, Top Chef, if you watch the show. He had a chain of sandwich shops called Witchcraft, which is his brand Kraft, his brand, the Kraft steakhouses. Well, so he had Witchcraft.
Nice.
So, but the sandwiches that he created were okay. Did all right, but then he hired deli people to come in. They rearranged the same sandwiches, the same ingredients, but did it like they would do it in a deli, and he became a hit.
Wow.
So yeah, it makes a difference.
That's really cool. What advice would you give to somebody who is the restaurant business is no joke, super hard, right? And it's not for the faint of heart. What advice would you give somebody who is wanting to start their own restaurant or even their own deli?
Well, they say run. So the TV show The Bear, that is very popular. I watched the first season, and I cringed at every episode because I had that happen to me. I'd had toilet blow up in the middle of lunch. I've had my electric shut off. I often say I have a PhD, and I'm not ashamed to say this. I've had the electric cut off. I've bounced checks. What did I have? The IRS froze my account. Telephone was cut off at the time. I mean, it was like, because it was a struggle when I first started. I mean, it was no joke. It was a struggle. And then I started to hit my stride. And of course, I'm legit now. I have accountants, I have lawyers, I have everybody working for me. It's like, all I care about is making sandwiches.
Nice.
The first thing I would tell you is, if you're going to start a business, get a lawyer and get an accountant.
That's good. Okay, transitioning now to something fun. If you could have anybody famous visit your shop, who would it be and why?
I've often said that the one person in all of history and time that I would enjoy would be P.T. Barnum. I am at all. I mean, I am the showman. I just like getting out there. I used to chase TV trucks when they would come to town with bags of sandwiches and say, if you're ever going to do a story on sandwiches, here.
Nice.
So, but I mean, sandwich-wise, that would be like picking my favorite child.
Sure.
It would be very tough.
Right.
I mean, but for P.T. Barnum, there's a sandwich I have called the Jaybird, which is it's a grilled prosciutto, soppressata, arugula, buffalo mozzarella. It has a calabrese pepper mix with it's got a twist to it. It has a habanero peach jam, and then onions, tomatoes, a little Reaper powder, olive oil, and it goes on a garlic toasted everything bun.
Wow.
It sounds very intense, but when you bite into this sandwich, it's an unbelievable melody of flavors. Getting back to the biology,
right?
You've got prosciutto and you've got soppressata, which are savory meats, very salty. You use arugula to cut the salt. The arugula is the pepper. And then you've got onion, which is a sharp. And then you've got those peppers in there that give it a hot. And then the peach habanero jam gives it a sweet, but still maintains the heat in there. So when you bite into the sandwich and you get all these flavors and you're done, you have an amazing aftertaste. And that's the testimony to a truly good meal or sandwich, is when you have when you're like, you're still hungry because you still have that taste in your mouth.
Mm-hmm.
That's what makes it.
Well, speaking of P.T. Barnum, you've been called P.T. Barnum a lot, and how has that your approach to that mentality helped with respect to marketing and your success?
When I was a kid, I had an uncle who he passed away when I was very young. He created Piggyback Railway with Santa Fe Railway. And this guy, I mean, he passed away when I was 11 years old, but between maybe 6 and 11, he was a huge executive. He knew the Kennedys. He knew Jimmy Hoffa. I mean, he worked both sides of the fence.
Crazy.
And so, but I mean, he would tell us stories, but I never forget him say, all men put their pants on the same way, one leg at a time, which, we go on to put women in the category too, but,
sure.
Because we want to be politically correct in 2024.
Right.
But just the fact that, the upbringing that I had and then the exposure to the different people that I've had, I paid attention. I was always told 2 ears, 1 mouth.
Right.
Listen twice as often.
You're known for creating lots of really, really unique sandwiches. What's been your most unique or memorable or even quirky sandwich?
So we have a sandwich called the Bourdain. And when Anthony Bourdain passed away, I was shocked. I mean, I really enjoyed that. I loved his edginess. I loved everything about the man. Don't know how good of a chef he was, but I mean, I loved his shows. And I remember him being in South America, and he loved mortadella. It's a simple sandwich. It was mortadella with cheese on a Kaiser roll and just heated, and he just loved that sandwich. So I wanted to create a sandwich that kind of like embraced all of Anthony Bourdain. So we've got it's called the Bourdain. It's a garlic toasted sesame hoagie. It has got grilled mortadella, bacon, lemon mayo mustard, spring mix, onions, tomatoes, giardiniera peppers on it. Simple sandwich, but I mean, the flavor in it is just incredible. I mean, people come in for this particular sandwich, we'll say it's life-changing. And it's like, but I mean, I've got so many other sandwiches. I have one that's very simple. It's a Palhan, roast beef, Genoa salami, onions, pepperoncinis, chili oil with smoked Gouda and provolone on a Tolera, basically a Kaiser. And that's a cult sandwich. We have cult sandwiches. People come in, they taste it, and they're like, oh my God. It's like, and they never switch. I see them. I've got people 15 years been in my shop getting the same sandwich.
Wow.
And my policy is anything you get, if you don't like it, bring it back. We'll trade it out. We'll get you something else.
That's awesome.
I'm willing to gamble that you're going to find another sandwich you're going to like, and I'll see you twice as often.
Sure.
So, yeah, I mean, it's a lot of sandwiches that are unique. I mean, when you have just 84 on your menu to begin with, I mean,
oh my gosh.
and a repertoire of 500 behind you, It's like, what do you like?
Right. Okay, so we're kind of landing the plane. Is there anything that I haven't asked you that you think you want to share about being a business owner, sandwiches, or Grapevine?
One thing I can tell you about Grapevine is, putting it all together, if to be here for 22 years is a testimony not only to my restaurant, but the people who have supported me over the years. COVID was a very important turn of events in our shop. I mean, I thought we were going to be done, and it turned out to be the best thing that ever happened for us, because people really got tired of hamburgers, pizzas, and chicken. And I had such a broad range of sandwiches. They could have whatever they wanted on a daily basis. So we actually exploded right after COVID, and just trying to get these little niches of people to come in by creating different styles of sandwiches, and just having these people walk away with the reviews that I get, tell the story itself. I mean, which I'm very grateful to these people and for as many 5 stars as they've given me. Mm-hmm. But I love this town. It's growing exponentially. It's can continue to grow with the railroad district that we have. We've pretty much finished off Main Street, the VIN, the commuter rail, the proximity to the airport. Mm-hmm. a lake. My God, I mean,
Sure.
it's like, what more could you ask for in a community? I mean, we have recreation, we've got sports, we've got education, great municipalities, the fire department, the police department, all of them top notch. You don't see. It's like we really have to do something wrong to get on the news.
Right. Right. Dan, this has been a super fun conversation. I appreciated you taking us through the journey of how you got where you are, your love of grapevines, sandwiches. It's been super cool. I think I'm hungry now. And if you haven't been to Weinberger's, you should go, and you definitely won't regret it. Thanks a lot for watching. And if you want more stories like this, make sure you hit subscribe, and we will catch you soon. Keep exploring grapevine.